welcome to The Explainer. So, we've all seen the absolute magic of generative AI, right? From creating these mind-blowing images to writing code that actually works. But today, we're asking what sounds like a simple question, but one that has a seriously complicated answer. Who actually owns the mind of the machine? Okay, let's just dive right into this because the answer is really at the heart of one of the biggest legal and, frankly, ethical battles happening in tech today. It all boils down to how these incredible tools got so smart in the first place. To really get the conflict here, you first got to peek inside the AI's mind. And, it's not a mind like ours. It's much more like this gigantic, invisible library, a library that's been built from the digital footprint of all of humanity. So models like ChatGPT or Midjourney, they learn by just hoovering up these enormous amounts of data. This stuff is scraped from the public internet. We're talking countless books, articles, songs, millions of images, you name it. Our entire digital culture is basically being fed into this machine. And here's the kicker. A huge, huge chunk of that culture is protected by copyright.
And you can probably see where this is going. This whole process has created a fundamental clash, pitting the people who made all that original culture, the artists, the writers, the coders, against the people creating this powerful new technology. It is a collision of two very different worlds.
So this really frames the two sides of the debate perfectly. On one side, you've got creators, and they see this as straight-up theft. They're saying, hey, our life's work is being used to build these multi-billion-dollar products, and we never gave permission or got paid. But then on the other side, the AI companies are saying, whoa, this is just how innovation works, and they're hiding behind a legal concept known as fair use. In the US, the AI company's entire argument really hangs on this idea of fair use. They claim that using copyrighted stuff to train an AI is transformative. The idea is that the AI isn't just making copies, it's learning patterns from the data to generate something brand new. And the analogy they use all the time goes something like this. Their AI models are just learning from the world's knowledge. Kind of like how a human artist learns by studying the great masters in a museum, or how a writer finds their voice by reading thousands of books. They frame it as a form of digital education, really. But, and this is a huge but, creators argue that that analogy completely falls apart when you look at the sheer scale and speed. A human student can't memorize and then instantly replicate every single painting in the Louvre. An AI can, and that's a massive difference. Even more important, that same AI can then be told to create a new work in the style of a living artist, basically becoming a direct competitor to that person's livelihood in a matter of seconds. So with billions of dollars on the table and the whole future of creative work hanging in the balance, this fight has, well, inevitably moved from angry forum posts and articles into the courtroom. Now the legal system has to figure out where to draw the line. And this timeline just shows you how quickly things have escalated. It's not just a few indie artists anymore. We're seeing absolute titans of industry, from the photo giant Getty Images to a legendary institution like the New York Times, filing these landmark lawsuits to protect their stuff. And get this, the really crucial point that came out of that Getty lawsuit was a pretty shocking detail. Some of the images the AI generated actually included a mangled but recognizable version of the Getty Images watermark. For critics, this was the smoking gun. It was proof that the AI wasn't just learning. In some cases, it was pretty clearly copying and spitting back out parts of its training data. This isn't just a US problem either. Different parts of the world are trying to figure this out. So in the US, they're letting the courts sort it out under that flexible but kind of vague fair use idea. Over in the EU, they allow data mining, but, and this is key, they give creators the right to opt out. Meanwhile, the UK almost went for a total free-for-all but had to backpedal after a huge backlash. It's creating this really messy, uncertain landscape for literally everyone involved. Okay, so the battle lines are drawn, it's all a bit of a mess. The big question is, where do we go from here? Well, in the middle of all this conflict, people are actually trying to find some real solutions to bridge this divide. So there are basically four main paths people are talking about. First, licensing models. Think about it like how Spotify pays royalties for music. Simple. Second, give creators a choice, an opt-in or opt-out system. Third, demand transparency, so we can finally know what's actually in the AI's library. And then there's the most radical idea. Just tear up the old rulebook and write brand new copyright laws for the age of AI. And this isn't just talk, by the way. Some companies are not waiting around for the courts. They're already trying these things out. Shutterstock, for instance, cut a deal to license its huge image library to OpenAI, making sure its photographers and artists actually get paid. And then you have Adobe, who built their Firefly AI from scratch using only licensed and public domain content, basically branding themselves as the ethical choice. So why does this super technical legal debate actually matter to the rest of us? Well, because the outcome here isn't just going to affect a few artists or tech companies, it's going to fundamentally shape the future of information, of art, and of culture itself. Honestly, the stakes could not be higher. For creators, this is about their livelihoods and the basic value of their work.
For the tech world, a ruling against fair use could make building AI way more expensive and much slower. And for all of us, it forces us to ask some really big questions. What is our cultural future going to look like? And what does ownership or creativity even mean in an age of intelligent machines?
Which leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? Are we witnessing the greatest expansion of creative tools in history, something that empowers every single person to be a creator? Or are we seeing the largest unlicensed use of creative work ever, built on the backs of artists who never gave their consent? Right now, that answer is still being written, both in courtrooms and in lines of code.